All right, let's mirror. All right, let's mirror. There we go. It's always so weird when you mirror your video because I'm used to seeing myself with the inverse. All right, I got a filter going. I'm looking rough. Thought I looked better today. Let's do that. All right, so we are going to talk about this whole Blake Lively controversy today because you guys, you guys are not understanding how Hollywood works. You guys are thinking it's some fair system that like the right person gets the fairness or whatever. Why isn't this working? Besito, besito, suave, suavecito. There we go. Hello. We are going to break down the Blake Lively controversy so I can explain this to you guys because you guys, I worked in Hollywood for over 10 years and you guys have a lot of misunderstandings about the Hollywood hierarchy versus on-set hierarchies. A lot of you think that the director on set has like all this power, and that's not always the case. While it usually can be the case, it is not always the case. The person with the power is the person getting the movie made, and a lot of times that's the star. Like there's a reason certain stars only work with certain directors. There's a reason certain directors only work with certain stars. So ask me questions about Hollywood, I'll explain it to you. I worked in Hollywood for over 10 years at a few talent agencies and a few management companies. And I can break down why you guys are misunderstanding this Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni situation. So what the publicists are doing is putting a narrative out there for each of their sides, right? I also used to work in PR. When you are the person with the least flattering story, you want to get your story out there first, so your narrative is the dominant narrative, okay? PR 101. Blake did that. Blake did that after having unfavorable press and unfavorable videos leaked from past situations that were unfavorable. Like she was getting bad press, right? So they went ahead, they knew that there was drama already with the Justin Baldoni situation, so they shot first, right? Shots fired. Okay. The problem with that is Justin, despite being the director, which again, on a film set, the director is the captain of the ship. The director is called the filmmaker, okay? They're the person who says, okay, we're shooting the camera from this way. I want the talent in this costume. We're gonna shoot these scenes today. We're gonna shoot these scenes tomorrow. Call time is at this. Okay, that's the director. Then they have usually final cut, although again, in instances of leverage, sometimes your bigger piece of talent, like say the movie's only getting made because a certain actor or actress attached themselves. That was sort of the case with the Fast and the Furious franchise, right? Without Vin Diesel, they had a tough time getting it going. So that is how sometimes the actor can be the more important piece. Okay, in this instance, this movie was not gonna be the hit or the drama or the thing it was without somebody as big as Blake Lively starring in it, right? So she has a lot more leverage because she's the much bigger deal. What that looks like though, on set and in practice is now the director is getting outshouted by the talent, right? As the talent again has more leverage in this instance, which is a rarity. It's usually the director. So now we're having a power struggle between the two because she knows this movie isn't getting made without her. And he really wants to make his movie, right? So we've got a going on. Compounding this, they're at the same talent agency, okay? Now, having worked at a talent agency, I can guarantee you that this is how this went down. They're having conflict, right? So they're each individually calling their agents, okay? She's being a total B. He's being a total D. I don't like this, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, within the agency though, she's married to Ryan Reynolds. They're a power couple with two of the top agents in the entire company. Baldoni, I'm gonna speculate because I worked at their competitor, but this is how it would have gone down at their competitor, was probably with a less senior agent, okay? So now, there's conflict within the company. We've got two earners on this team. We've got a lower level on this guy. We're gonna tell you to shut up because at the end of the day, they're bringing in more money. You're the problem, you shut up. What else does this look like? In other instances, like your Harvey Weinsteins of the world, when there were complaints leveraged against a Harvey Weinstein who had a lot of agents on his team, they were like, get rid of this talent, shut her up because he brings in millions and millions a year, not this person. So kick them out. It's easier to kick out a lower level, okay? So they likely threw fisticuffs within the agency, but again, the more senior people with the two pieces of talent, right? Regardless of what Reynolds was in relationship to this film, which we can get to that, because my understanding is he scabbed during the writer's strike, which I'll explain scabbing to you. This is two earners versus one, okay? So already you lose that chess match. Okay, so now we're back on set because we're all in contract with each other, right? So it's not that easy for one party to walk away. Now we're in contract with each other, but she's basically been told, you're the more important person, do what you want here. So now that makes it very hard for a director to be directing because you've empowered the talent, which usually the director's here and the talent's here. I'm sorry, the talent's here and the director's here. Am I seeing all your comments? I see that something's getting filtered. Try again. Ask me your questions because I worked in this industry for over 10 years. I totally left out the intimacy coordinator part on my last video. So I'll explain intimacy coordinators to you guys as well. But what happens now is the normal chain of command. Imagine you're in charge of a ship and you're the captain of the ship and somebody now suddenly empowered one of the crew to be like, oh no, I think we should sail this way. Actually, I think we should plot a course for this. Let's raise the sails this way. I don't like the sails. Should we put pink sails up? That's completely messing with the normal chain of command. Now, in other instances, such as with child stars, right? That power imbalance can be really skewed in favor of the director or a producer, right? Because you've got a kid with zero leverage, zero strings to pull, zero relationships, right? They're lucky to be there. So in that case, the power imbalance is way like this. In this instance, it was more like Blake here, director here, okay? So what does that mean for harassment? Well, it means Justin was lucky to be there, right? Which likely doesn't mean he was the one doing harassing, because you need a few things for harassment to happen in Hollywood. You need leverage, right? Where the person can't do anything about it. And then you need opportunity. It doesn't sound to me, based on the court filings, that he had either, because she constantly had staff with her and she constantly had her husband around. Why aren't people coming forward? Well, when the ship is sinking, you're going to align with the stronger party. Because if you see this guy Baldoni is going down, 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 you're not if you're the makeup artist. You're not if you're an extra. You're not if you're another part in the show gonna necessarily stick your neck out for this guy who's about to fall hard, because they say firing's contagious. You're gonna align with the big fish because you wanna work again. And the way you work again in Hollywood is you don't cause problems. It's not a moral business. This is not an ethical business. This is not a business where you do the right thing. Also, my experience outside of Hollywood, the business world is very similar. It might be unjust that somebody's getting treated this way, but the people who stick their neck out for that person get thrown out with the bathwater. So again, people are discouraged from coming forward because they want to work again. It's a gig economy in Hollywood. Okay, so that's why people haven't come forward. Separate from that, intimacy coordinators. The most damning piece to me was she refused to meet with the intimacy coordinator, but then claimed he was improvising things that they didn't agree on in intimate scenes. And the reason this is strange is intimacy coordinators are basically choreographers, okay? They literally script where the hand goes, where the mouth goes, who's okay with what they're consenting to and what they're not okay to. So you have a lot of conversations about consent. And I'll tell you an anecdotal story about why intimacy coordinators are necessary. You have a lot of times, mostly male, actually I'm gonna say probably 90% male. I haven't heard, but I'm not gonna go 100%. I haven't heard of a woman doing this, but men take liberties in sex scenes and call it improv, okay? It's a big problem. They cop an extra feel, hold on too long, things that she did accuse him of. However, they had an intimacy coordinator that she elected multiple occasions not to meet with. That would have gone through how he was going to kiss her, how she didn't want to be kissed, what body parts she was going to show, etc., etc., etc. If you're not going to meet with the intimacy coordinator, you don't get, that's like not meeting with the dance choreographer and then going, I don't like these dance moves, I'm not doing them. Except you're Michael Jackson, so you have all the leverage on set instead of the director. See where I'm going with this? The hierarchies in Hollywood are fluid depending on who you earn the money for. If you're earning the money for the more important party, you're gonna have more say. That's all it comes down to. Who are you earning the money for? So I hope this helps. A lot of people have misguided opinions on this because actually, despite being not on Blake's side on this one, I am 90% of the time on the woman's side. So I could explain to you the nuances of that too. It usually is men taking liberties in these circumstances. That is why we have intimacy coordinators, because it's the men out there copying the extra feel. Where this doesn't align for me is the power imbalance was in her favor, and she declined repeatedly the intimacy coordinator, and he has texts saying, come to my trailer, I'm pumping, and he's like, all right, well, I'm meeting with the crew, I'll be down there in a minute. Paul! I'm explaining Hollywood to some people who are very confused. I had a video go way bigger than I thought it would, and I'm trying to explain some things to some people. Arlen, girl, you could probably echo what I'm talking about with these intimacy coordinators and the power imbalances. Yeah, Arlen, I'm so proud of you, by the way. You're killing it. You're doing Salt Lake City now, the real estate show. That's so awesome. I'm trying to explain to people on the scripted side that just because a director is a director does not mean they have the power. Oftentimes on smaller sets, it's whoever the biggest piece of talent is. So again, if a movie's only getting made because they got somebody like Blake Lively to attach themselves, Blake Lively is calling the shots regardless of if her title is producer, actor, or extra. Okay? It's the person who the reason the movie is made and greenlit, that person calls the shots. And then additionally, she has the extra juice of her husband is a high earner for one of the biggest talent agencies in Hollywood, arguably the world. They're going to side with that team. They don't want to lose that money. That's a lot of money those two bring in every year. So, and don't forget about even brand deals that they have, because WME has a whole branding arm. So they want to keep the money. They don't want to have controversy. They're not going to side with the guy who doesn't have brand deals, who I think it was his first directing job. I could be wrong, but I don't have many directing credits for that guy. Yeah, and like, again, I am 99% of the time going to say believe women, because statistically it's the men taking advantage. This is the 1% where it's like, she didn't like that an unfavorable narrative was coming out and she wanted to get ahead of it. And the first rule of PR is get your story out there first. Because then you put the other side on the defensive, and it's a lot harder to walk claims back and get rid of them than when an accusation is lobbied. That's why if you're in the wrong and you need a PR team, you want an aggressive PR team who's going to make the first shot. Because once you're on the defensive side, people don't want to believe you. People just think you're defending yourself. Separately, I worked with a lot of directors. There is a lot of conversations that go on between directors and their talent before any given scene is shot. So it makes sense that they would be having a lot of back and forth conversations. It sounds like, based on the filings that I read the filings because I was very curious about this. What up, Chris? He made numerous attempts to discuss things with her that she kept stonewalling and stonewalling and stonewalling. And so I'm over here going, I don't know Justin, but I do know the track record of Blake is not favorable. She feuds with everyone she works with. Not everyone, I'm sorry, but she comes away from most projects with some kind of conflict. And then I have my own personal experience with her where she completely made up that I was fangirling on her when I was an intern. I didn't speak to her. So I have lived experience with her making things up. My nose is running because it's so cold here. I have anecdotal experience from all my friends working on various sets with her, just being like, that one's a problem. And then I have my own lived experience of working with other directors. And I have been sexually harassed within Hollywood myself. 10 out of 10, it's somebody who's above you, whose jokes you have to laugh at, who you can't tattle on. Because they know you can't tattle on them, which is why they pick on you. Because if you... At the talent agency, when I was getting sexually harassed, it was this old man who would come up behind me and sniff my hair, ask me what color my underwear was. I couldn't go to HR. Who's HR going to get rid of? The person who's an expense or the guy bringing in money? Boom. You lose that fight every time in Hollywood. So, wish I had napkins out here. Actually, come with me. We shall... Ow! Oh, that was my knee. Come with me. We shall get a napkin. So anyway, that is what's going on with that. I'm not, oh, people are accusing me of not understanding the hierarchy of set. Baby girl, I grew up on TV sets. My parents work in TV. My great-grandfather was blacklisted with the Hollywood 10. Like, Hollywood's in my blood. I worked there for 10 years. Even right now, I just got off of work where I was working on set. So, miss me with the I don't understand how set dynamics work. And having been sexually harassed myself, it's always the person in power targeting somebody beneath them who can't tattle. That's the nature of it. That's the nature of it. By the way, let me give you a flip the script. Say a PA was harassing her, right? Bothering her. You know how fast that guy would be kicked off set? Boom, immediately removed, okay? It's the only way you get away with it is when you're the powerful person. If another assistant bothered me, they'd be gone. It was because this guy was a top earner at my company. I knew I couldn't say anything because every girl who said something against Harvey Weinstein never worked again. So harassment, again, is coming from the party with leverage downwind. Justin had no leverage, okay? He had no leverage. She had all the leverage. He was not harassing. Thank you. If you have any other Hollywood questions, I can spill the tea. What do you want to know? Anecdotally, I have friends who worked with her in wardrobe. I've had friends who worked with her in production capacities. She's not nice, okay? She's not easy to get along with. And they had to keep their mouths shut because, again, if they're the complainer, they don't work on the next project. So it's easier to just keep your head down and just, like, cry on the way home. Like I did when she embarrassed me. Like, that's what you do when, because again, I was the intern. What was I going to say? No, that didn't happen. Like, they're not going to believe me. Get out. You're lucky to be here. I wish some of the trolls who were all over my last video would join in and ask me their questions because I'd love to enlighten them. I'm also starving. I just did 3 hours on set. What else do you guys want to know? That is how power imbalances work. That is how talent agencies work. Again, the bigger piece of talent is going to have the leverage. If this was a true harassment situation, her agents would have been on set figuring this out, if not kicking him off the project outright. So a lot of times people don't understand what producers do. Producers wear many hats. Sometimes they're just a financier, which means they're just putting up money for the film. Sometimes they're in a writing capacity, which is a creative capacity. They're going to be working on scripts. Sometimes they're just an actor who, because they're such a big deal and so important to the project. Like, imagine your movie's not made unless Anthony Hopkins signs on. You're going to give him a producer credit because we're not getting this made without Anthony Hopkins, right? It's very likely she had a glamour producer title just because the movie probably was only getting made because a big piece of talent like Blake was getting attached, okay? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I just know from my perspective, it caught me way off. No one's ever complained about me, ever. Well, not ever. Sorry, I'm sure people have complained about me. But I mean, like, on set, like, no one's ever been like, oh, she's so annoying. She fangirls over the talent. Like, again, I grew up around famous people. You don't impress me. And at the time that she complained about me, I didn't even know who she was. This was her first movie. To my knowledge, it was her first movie. I'd never heard of this girl. So I did not treat her like a fan. I had no idea who she was. No, I have not worked with either of them. I have not. I worked, by the time I got to the director stage, I was working in mostly TV comedy. I did get to work a little bit with John Chu, who just did Wicked, back when he did Crazy Rich Asians. So that movie has a soft spot in my heart. So that was cool. I got to work with Mark Cherry, who did Desperate Housewives, Robert and Michelle King, who did The Good Wife. So those are some cool ones. You guys, it's 10 degrees in Chicago. Like, it's so cold. My nose is just a faucet. And I went tanning today because I needed to get some vitamin D, so now I'm all red. Which one? Crazy Rich Asians? I loved the book, and then when I found out Chu was directing, that might have been a fangirl moment when I was like, oh my god, our client's directing this one. Like, that was a slight fangirl moment. But yeah, I know in Hollywood, it all comes down to who's earning the money, and they get to call the shots. Because at the end of the day, nobody wants to lose the money. So if you're the agent and that's your bread and butter, you're gonna side with them regardless of how morally wrong. By the way, I guarantee you Blake's agents have heard complaints about her before, but because she earns and because she's attached to Ryan, they're not going to do anything about it because they're not going to lose Ryan and they're not going to lose Blake. Like, Blake's got a lot of brand deals, so does Ryan, in addition to their film deals. So it doesn't matter how many complaints they've heard. Baldoni, you might have earned me $50,000 this year. They pulled in over $1 million. How can someone work on set as a stylist? So you get in a few different ways, but you wind up, the easiest way in is finding a stylist and assisting them. And then when they get on their next few projects, then they're like, oh, I can't work this next one. Why don't you go? It's a referral system. When you're in the entry level in Hollywood, it's a lot of referrals. So you take entry level jobs. And that brings me back to why people like stylists can't complain. You want to work your next job. It's a gig economy. So if you made trouble with Blake Lively or you tattled on her because you witnessed Baldoni not harassing her, she and Ryan are going to come for you and go, I'm never working with her again. F her. She sided against me. And now you see the problem, right? This is not a moral business. Okay? You want to work again. You're the hairstylist. Maybe you didn't witness harassment. Maybe you witnessed her being rude. Okay, maybe you witnessed her being difficult. You're not going to side with him who's embroiled in this and arguably going to be cut because he's the weaker potato here. Horror stories that happen with stylists. Actually, the stylists would be better ones to ask about that because they have to keep their mouths shut because, again, they're project-based and they're not in front of the camera, so they're like the most dispensable person. Everyone wants to be a set designer. Everyone wants to be a stylist. Everyone wants to do hair and makeup. And, again, if you pick a fight with Blake Lively because you said, oh, he didn't harass you, I was there for that conversation. Like, let's go back to the one where she said he came in on her when she was still pumping. He proved that she texted him and said, come to the trailer, I'm pumping, whatever, like all of that above board. Say you're doing her hair at that time or you're dressing her. You know that in 2 weeks you don't have a job, right? Because these are transient positions. You're not going to say, oh, I was there, that didn't happen. Because the first thing she's going to do is blackball you. And that's how the system works. Now, I'm not saying she does any of this. I'm saying this is the chain of command and the hierarchy. The only thing I know is she lobbied an out of left field complaint against me that was just completely out of left field. And I got in trouble for it and I cried on the way home, but it was like inconsequential at the time. It was just embarrassing. But when I factor in what my friends have experienced with her, yeah. No, none of it. The industry is not fair. It's basically like until you're $1 million earner, you're lucky to be there. And so Justin falls into the category of lucky to be there. And I'm assuming some unflattering stuff was about to come out about her just based on the aggressive showcasing of all the interviews where she was not nice. And she wanted to be like, well, Justin is exposing how not nice I am. Because don't forget, Justin on his press tour was talking about domestic violence, talking about places he was donating to, doing all the things she wasn't doing for a movie about domestic violence. She, on the other hand, was promoting her hair product and telling people to wear flower dresses in support of the movie, just completely off the mark on a movie about domestic violence. And it embarrassed her and it was egg on her face. So she had to throw a counterpunch because she was looking a little bit bad. Now, would I have done that? No. I would have put my head down, donated to some domestic violence charities and just been like, lesson learned. I would not have attacked the director who was simply exposing me, but for, then you read his issues, she was pretending not to get scripts on time, all these different things. It just points to she's the problem. Now I'm going to be controversial. I'm Team Amber Heard on the Depp versus Heard, which was another thing I kept seeing in my comments on that video that was going viral. People are like, he's getting the Depp treatment. He's not. She's Johnny Depp in this instance. He's Amber Heard. Amber Heard's the victim, just to be clear. So I believe women. I believe Rose McGowan. I believe Amber Heard. The power imbalance is your tell here. The person in power is the one doing the abuse every time. The person in power is not being abused. They can just remove the peon. If you're a peon and you're annoying in this money-making system where the only thing that matters is the money coming in, you're removed. So again, going back to my own sexual harassment, I knew there was no way I can complain against the guy that would sniff my hair every day because he was the earner. I was the assistant. There was nothing I could do. They were going to fire the assistant. I'm an expense. He brings in money. So that's how you need to understand the Hollywood hierarchy. If you're earning, you can call the shots. If you're lucky to be there, which is another, there's two categories. You're either earning or lucky to be there. That's just it. There's two categories in Hollywood. No, a lot more. One, England ruled favorably in her favor. And two, she didn't defame him. She wrote a blind item, never used his name. And every instance of abuse was a power imbalance witnessed by other people. The only thing that happened was he hired a really good PR team. Having worked in PR, my first job was in PR. All they did was blitz social media with like, she said this, she's unhinged. She did this, she's unhinged. She's a low-level actress. He's a major Hollywood star. Of course, people want to keep the earner in power. He had all the money. She didn't. Again, England has a higher burden of proof than America, and England ruled in her favor. Like, she literally was a victim of trial by media, which is what Blake tried to do. There's another high-profile case I'm thinking of, but I'm missing who it is. It's related to Weinstein. Anyone remember? Because I'll weigh in on that as well. And we can break it down to child stars as well. So my daughter was doing youth talent for a while when we lived in LA. We don't live there anymore. So now she just does theater and stage productions. When we were on set, I really only had experience with directors, writers, and below the line people. I actually didn't have a lot of experience with the acting side. So my first few times on set as her advocate and her parent, I didn't know what to do. I went into intern mode, which is shut up and be quiet. You're on set, don't make a peep. We had a set teacher, so because she was a minor, they legally had to give us a set teacher who, this was like the third set we'd been on at this time, but this set teacher was really vocal. And she walked me through, never leave set, always make sure you can see her. You're legally entitled to a clear line of vision of her. And don't be afraid to advocate for when she needs a break or if something's not right. And I remember scratching my head because I, again, reverted to off-camera, production mode, which is don't even be seen. Not only don't be heard, don't be seen, right? And she explained to me that it's very easy for directors and those in power, the predators, if you will, to alienate the parent from the kid by separating the kid from the parent and then being like, your mom's the problem. If your mom wasn't here, I'd give you more lines. How are you going to pay that car bill? Your mom's in that one-bedroom apartment. I'll give you a much higher title, but you need to get mom off set. Okay? Then when you watch Dark Side of the 90s and the documentary Quiet on the Set and you see what happened to these Nickelodeon and Disney kids, it's mind-blowing how basically one of two things happened. If your mom advocated for you on set, there were a couple of actors who did, those kids never worked again. Their parents were declared the problem, which created their own problems within the family because then the kid's resentful. I'm not working because you were annoying. You were annoying, right? Or you got Amanda Bynes, or what was his name? Drake. You got draked, where the parent was like, oh, okay, go take those extra acting lessons. Oh, he can drive you to the audition. He can take you on set. So now you've got a power imbalance with an easy target who's being gaslit against the parent, and now the abuse starts happening. And then once the abuse starts, and it's slow, you don't start getting molested, okay? You start with a boundary cross. You start with a weird situation, but then it's justified and rewarded. Oh, you got more lines this episode because you gave Dan Schneider a massage. Okay. I just gave him a massage. That's above board. Okay, I let him touch my feet. That's above board. And you're not telling mom, because mom's been marked as crazy. So when this was explained to me, I was like, okay, I'd rather she never work again than ever be in a position where she's one-on-one with one of these power imbalance situations. Because that's why a lot of child stars come out not okay. It's because they were put in a ridiculous power imbalance and either were never going to work again or they played ball. And then you see what happens. There's substance abuse. There's a lot of unaliving. And it becomes very dark. That's the A to B, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. These child stars are so troubled. These child stars are so troubled. No, they were victims of a power imbalance and literally manipulated into this. So take that for what you will with all of this Blake Lively stuff. Obviously, it's not that extreme here, but what is going on is people align with the money earner. And that is all it comes down to. If you're earning me money, I'm on your team. Boom. Which is why it's awesome that I have a disorder that allows me to not care about social hierarchy. I don't mind being the bad guy. I will be the villain. I will absolutely be the villain, so there's not a bigger villain. And that was the case with my daughter. I was like, you know what? If we're walking into this and we're tiptoeing into it. And one of the first weird things was we were doing a commercial and it was for a food item. And she didn't like the food item, but the director needed her to at least eat it, but then she could spit it out. And I was like, you know what? Based on the conversations I've had, that's the boundary crossing, right? Obviously, I know we signed a contract, but she was 2 or 3 at the time. But if you don't like something and now you're smiling, looking at camera, saying you love it, and then when they yell cut, spitting it out, I have now taught you that even if it's not okay, it's okay. We need you to do it. And that's what made me walk from the whole child acting industry with her. And I have to tell you, right now, she sings in a rock band and she does community theater, which is way more age appropriate. And if she's going to be a movie star, she's going to be a rock star, she's going to come in with her head right. She's not coming in with, oh, I'm used to people seeing me undressed. Oh, I'm used to people making me do things I don't want to do because I'm under contract. Not my kid. Not my kid, not my circus, not my clowns. So all of this circles back to power imbalances, and that is the lesson I want all of you to take away. I love that you guys like this. I'm so glad this is hitting a tone with you guys because this is not my normal content. There's so much, I don't want to call it illiteracy because I feel like that's insulting. I don't want to insult anyone by calling you illiterate, but like not understanding how these things work leads to the Depp-Heard dynamic where he was physically abusive. He has a track record of abusing partners. None of his romantic partners will stay with him because of his abuse. And no one's going to come forward about the abuse because they make money off him or are afraid of him. They don't want the treatment that she got. Another famous example is, who is the one? No wire hangers. No wire hangers. No, people witnessed the abuse that her daughter Christine went through, and Joan Crawford. And nobody came forward because Joan Crawford was earning them money. So the driver was quoted years after Joan's death of witnessing her slam Christina's hand in the door repeatedly because she was mad at her, and didn't come forward at the time because he was employed by her. So you see what I'm saying? If people are dependent on this for a living, they're not going to do the right thing. They want to keep their job. So that is the state of affairs, people. My gosh, thank you guys for understanding this. Now, this happens less so in non-scripted television, but it still happens. People will witness domestic abuse on non-scripted sets. Arlen, you can weigh in. Or you don't have to weigh in, but a lot of verbal and domestic abuse happens on non-scripted sets, and people will cover them up. Famously, Thomas Ravenel, they covered that up for a while. There's other instances of spouses. TLC is a huge perpetrator of this. They're getting their bills paid by people like the Duggars. They're getting their bills paid by people on unexpected. There's also a lot of abuse happening between partners behind scenes. They're not going to uncover that. They're not going to say, hey, we're not shooting with him because he's actually verbally abusing you. They're just going to keep you guys shooting because they want to keep the show going. So abuse happens. The shows are going to push their narratives. It comes down to leverage and money. Leverage and money. Yeah. Filming with kids, there's a lot of injustice going on. And it was weird to walk away because, by the way, another example of how abuse goes down in the child industry. My daughter used to do live improv comedy shows when we were in LA. For whatever reason, what was his name? Who's the guy who did Schitt's Creek, the showrunner for Schitt's Creek? The kid who wrote it? I think Blake probably misinterpreted some stuff and wanted to take advantage of her power and position. I don't think something happened. I think she took a straw. You know how like when there's a thread coming out of your sweater and you pull it? I think she pulled a thread. I don't think Baldoni did anything. I think she looked at desperate situations and made a full picture of, I'm the victim. That's what I think happened. But that's speculative. That is purely speculative at this point, just based on anecdotal experience on the filings. What is the Schitt's Creek guy's name? He's got the dad and Tim. Somebody chime in the comments. I need to know his name. I'm looking at his face. He's got the eyebrows. Dan Levy. Okay. So not that Dan Levy. There's another Dan Levy who's a showrunner. He saw my daughter at this improv comedy show and came up to me after and was like, I need her to audition for this NBC pilot I'm shooting. I think she'd be great. Cool. That's what we've always wanted, right? Okay. Get to the lot. Golf cart down to the audition, and we're in the waiting room, and there's one other parent with her kid, and her kid is crying, and I'm like, what the heck? Because this is a comedy we're auditioning for. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so stuffy. You never want to send your kid into a comedy audition crying, right? So I'm side-eyeing the situation. Our kids are young enough that they don't have sides yet, so they're just going to be improvising the audition. And so I'm just like trying to keep my kid in good humor. And then what always I do in auditions is I interact with the other kids because the industry is so weird. I just feel bad for all the kids. So I try to make the other kid laugh because I'm like, it's not going to come down to if your kid's better than mine. I just don't want your kid crying in an audition. So we have to go to the bathroom. And they happened to be in the bathroom. I thought they had gotten called down to the audition. They went to the bathroom, which was next to his door. Okay. So we walk down to the bathroom and I overhear her screaming at her daughter. You need to lock it up. You need to go in there and do this. You need to smile. And I'm like, oh my God, what a stage parent. Like, how could you do that to your kid? So I walk into the bathroom to interrupt it. I'm just so put off. And I look at the mom and I actually said, what are you doing? And she gives me the dirty eye as if I'm trying to psych her out of the audition, which I'm not. I'm trying to protect her kid. So whatever, that was weird. We go into her audition. Mickey doesn't get the part. What F's do I give? I do not care. And a few auditions later, I run into them and she's screaming at her kid in the waiting room again. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's not just the directors and production that abuse these kids. It's their own parents who are like, go make us money. Go make us money. That's funny, Rachel. That's funny. Wait, what's H-Traff? I don't know what that is. Yeah. I love this. Well, thank you guys, because a lot of people don't understand. Again, you might be a certain role on set. If you're not earning the moneymaker's money, you ain't that role, right? You might be the director in title, you the bitch. So, oh yeah. And that was really off-putting when I saw this woman doing it again, because I actually gave her the benefit of the doubt. Not like you don't always see the same people all over again, but you kind of do when you book a lot. Like, my kid would not always book, but she would at least get a call back. So you kind of do see the same people in that circuit. And some of these stage parents, I was like, again, how is your kid going to go in there and do well if they're terrified and freaking out that you're yelling at them? Like, number one thing I always said to my kid was have fun in there. Have fun in there. Have fun in there. Wait, Crystal, I didn't see your question. Can you ask it again? I don't think I saw it. I don't see your question. It got buried. Can you ask it again, Crystal? What project am I working on now? So now I do this improv-based selling stuff. It's I make money being on TikTok. I do TikTok lives for companies. So it's not the most glamorous, but you're still on set all day. Yeah. And you can see how having a stage parent screaming at you grooms you for that producer who's like, you did great. I'll take you to audition next time. And then you get McDonald's with the producer on the way to the audition. You're like, this is a much better experience. I like you. And it just snowballs from there. Crystal, ask your question again. It's totally buried. I don't see it. Yeah, want to hear something else messed up? Cougan Accounts. So you have to get a Cougan account for your kid. Only 30% of their paycheck goes into it, which means 70% is released to the parent. So if you make $100, you actually only get 30 and your mom gets 70, which you don't even both get that because your agent's taking probably 10, 15 to 20, depending on what predatory deal you signed. I don't see your question again. I think you're getting filtered. Oh my God. So what I would do is take every penny she got and put it in the Cougan so that like nobody could touch it, which gets released. It's a trust account that gets released when they're 18. But like you get parents who don't know the industry who sign with predatory agents. And then you get predatory parents who are like, ooh, I can make my car payment just based off that commercial. So I have a lot to say about child talent. Yeah, the legal guardianship over your child it's not the number one red flag. It's like the number 10 red flag. Like we've gone down the road of red flags at that point, and we're at the number 10 phase, right? Where Drake Bell had the legal guardianship signed over. Like, ooh, my heart broke. So that's what we got. I will break down Hollywood for you guys. Yes, you don't get to work as youth talent without a Cougan account, so they won't even consider you. Your agent won't even sign you if you don't have a Cougan. It's protection, except you're getting $30 for every 100, and you're not even getting that again because your agent's siphoning 10%. Well, I guess you're getting that mandatory 30%, but like your mom and your agent are getting the rest. And then if you have a lawyer and you have a manager, there's more being skimmed. So yikes. As when I saw that too, I was like, now it explains why that stage mom was so psychotic. She probably wanted to pay her rent. Yeah, it's crazy. So sounds like people really want to do a dip dive into Hollywood, which I will do. Now, your kid likes acting. Your kid likes singing. There's ways to do it in your community that are not in Hollywood, that are enriching, fulfilling, great training. My daughter's in SAG. I'm not. A good friend of mine is this actor named Miles Teller. He did it the right way, right? He did high school theater, community theater, went to New York Tisch acting school, and then broke in. I believe he did an episode of Law and Order. That was his first big one. That's the right order, right? Because you're graduating into things and you have agency as you get into it. These lucky breaks and these, oh, I'm going to be the young starlet on this big set. You're being set up. You do comedy? That's awesome. I don't know if Baldoni will be blacklisted. It's gonna honestly come down to how the legal case goes, because just like Amber Heard, that crushed her. Like she will likely have a tough time working again. She's a victim of the PR machine. It's not just growing up and being a kid, it's you're not being taken advantage of by people in positions of power. Because there's kids like Dakota Fanning, like Elle Fanning, who grew up in Hollywood who weren't taken advantage of, right? Or don't appear to be, right? They consistently worked, they transitioned to adult actors, and they were parented and they were protected. There's success cases, right? It comes down to what predators cross your path and how much leverage they, and again, this brings me back to the point at the top of the hour, which was leverage. I don't think they will be blacklisted. I think this is going to be a bump in the road for them, and then they'll probably invest in a charity. He'll probably do something cute pro bono. It's going to probably fall on his shoulders to do some like cute, endearing thing, maybe a kid's movie. And she'll donate to a domestic violence charity, and then they'll be hireable again. Nothing. Because again, she still has the leverage. So even if Justin wins the lawsuit, he'll be vindicated and hopefully he doesn't suffer damage. But she's still gonna be up here. Because don't forget, she's part of a power duo. And Ryan Reynolds is a big studio actor and a film opener. Where I think on any of their talent is irrelevant. It comes down to who earns the money. And again, Ryan Reynolds will do a cute children's cancer commercial and be back in the public's graces. Blake will show up with Taylor Swift to an event and they'll humanize her. I don't think that gives her leverage. I think it gives her humanity, because Taylor, as far as I know, ironically, there's some crossover with some friends with me with Taylor. I don't know Taylor. My friends know her. She's reportedly very nice and human, so I think association with her is humanizing. So I don't think Blake is going to long-term suffer, which was another reason why I wouldn't have done this if I was Blake. I would have just rolled off, because she isn't going to suffer for this. She got 5 minutes of bad press, which again brings me back. That's so funny. Seal Trader, did you see me tonight at the Crystal Show? I'm back, baby. Maybe I do explain this stuff again. The drama can sometimes lend itself to visibility, because Netflix is ultimately winning. People are watching this movie to see if they see conflict between the two. Just like, do you remember when Mr. and Mrs. Smith came out and Angelina and Brad were rumored to have the affair, which, let's be real, they were? That lent itself to the press, because everyone was like, well, I need to see this movie to see if there's chemistry. I need to see for myself if there's chemistry, right? Is this kind of like that, where it's like, well, I need to see if there's weirdness in the scene. I need to see if there's weirdness in the scene. So ultimately Netflix wins, and I don't think Blake or Ryan are going to suffer. They have a good enough PR team and their agents are big enough, and they have enough like big people in their corners that they're just going to do a bunch of public appearances. Wouldn't be surprised if there was a hospital tour or a DV shelter tour to rehab this. Justin, on the other hand, if he doesn't win, is dead. If he does win, it's going to take a braver soul to reinvest. He's going to have to actually go to CAA or UTA. And in that case, it's going to take one of their in-house talent to align with him and prove he's not a bad guy. Very high stakes for him. Very high stakes for him. Very high stakes for him. Because he's going to need somebody else to vouch for him at this point. I didn't watch the Menendez brother documentary. That one was so murky and cloudy for me, but I don't know what to say about that. And I'm not a legal expert. I'm more of a Hollywood expert. Like, that's where I came from. That's where my friends still are. And don't forget, I'm still friends with my friends. Like, we talk. Why didn't Mayfair and Sony out? Because she had the leverage. She was the reason the movie was getting made. It's Pizza Hut. It's Pizza Hut. I actually really like Pizza Hut. I'm a New Yorker and I like Pizza Hut. And I've been in weird development meetings where someone is going off the rails. There's a certain comedian who's doing okay now, but he was not doing okay at the time. And he was going off the rails. I don't want to say who he is because he actually is okay now. He was hawking loogies on our floor. On the floor, okay? And he's like, give me my money, give me my money. And he's screaming at us like he's completely unhinged. It was not. But now he's doing okay, so that's why I'm not going to embarrass him. But I've been in some unhinged meetings where because people are still making money off this person, no one's going to do anything about it. I think if he loses, he'll be blacklisted. I think if he wins, it'll take a big piece of talent from, again, CAA or UTA to invest or trust in him to get him going again. And that's the only way I see him surviving. That's a good question. Because a lot of her power comes from their two incomes for the same. So they're at the same talent agency, and they probably have the same attorneys. So that's a big team who's making money off them, and they earn collectively and separately. That's a lot of money they're bringing in. So they don't care that people don't like her, right? Because if Ryan Reynolds does another Deadpool, or if Ryan Reynolds does a car commercial, that's a lot of money coming in. Do you see what I'm saying though? So if they're making money, why would they even deal with or risk Baldoni, who is again someone told me he was in Jane the Virgin. I never watched that show, so I have no idea. What I can tell you is I worked with directors, and so I had to know the competition by default. Like, you have to know who your other directors are up against. I never heard of him. So that right there tells you he was the small potato here. And again, she's two people, right? She's two people. She's not one. She's Ryan and Blake. I don't think this will take down their marriage. I think this might even solidify the marriage. I think it might make it stronger. No, it won't, because they're not turned against them. There's a lot of people who are not turned against them. Yeah, because again, he's Deadpool. He's done a lot of big movies. Like, I'm mixed on him as talent, but the guy brings in money. He's a box office opener. People like him. So you're going to side with him. Even if you don't agree with him, you're going to side with him. That's how Hollywood works. I do not. Even if they lose, all it does is help Justin not die. Yeah. I can't testify because I don't know Justin. So a lot of people in my comments were like, character witness, character witness. You can only be a character witness for someone you know. I don't know Justin. I know what I know based on what friends have told me in the industry. I know what I know based on my interaction with Blake and how the industry is structured. But all I am is somebody who worked in this industry for 10 years and who grew up in the industry from another side. So I'm just somebody who can color this in it's like being a sportscaster who didn't play basketball or watched a lot of basketball, right? I can tell you the point guard's got the ball. I can tell you the forward got the rebound, but I can't come up against you and rebound. This is such an interesting live. I usually don't go live on my own page. I'll tell you 2 reasons why I don't think they would bring her coworkers up to testify. 1, no one would. That's career suicide for them. Okay? They're going to, because again, if they go against her and Ryan, that's a risk for them. This guy's, like, think of the Salem witch trials. Are you going to defend the witch? Because you're just going to be put in the fire with the witch, right? You're going to side with the people accusing the witch because you don't want to be accused of being the witch. That's exactly what we're dealing with, right? Now, are there extenuating circumstances and outliers? Of course. Most people, though, as in the Joan Crawford case, to give you specifics, only come forward years later. Most people are only coming forward about Diddy because he's in jail. When he was out on the prowl, I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything. Now you've got security guards. It frustrates me that she seems to have done that, and that's lame because there's people that, yeah, that's where I'm landing on this. I think he's got an uphill battle, and I think that I think if she didn't say anything, this would have been a net neutral for her. She could have shown up to a few DV shelters and rehabbed her image on her own and just been like, me and Justin didn't see eye to eye, fine. This attack then opened up a counterattack, which then exposed things. I agree, Jose. I agree with you. I think initially people came out and said, team woman, team woman. Because also, don't forget, the people who came out as team her, team her, team her, were people higher than her on the food chain. So she'd probably been nice to them because she's one of those people that's nice to people she perceives above her. That's the tricky thing about her. She will align herself with those above her, but anyone below her she doesn't have the time for. Drew, what do you want to know about that? Because I do have thoughts on that. Ooh, thank you guys. Just got a little sound alert. I don't know what we did here. I think it was less than a power grab and more than she was going to have egg on her face about not looking good, and she mishandled it by attacking the director and perceiving him as the enemy instead of just, again, her as the higher person could have just ignored. So now you're getting exposed for how annoying you are. The whole thing is true, but Blake has a pattern of strange behaviors is the macro picture I'm pointing out, because as I said, 20 years ago, I met her, was on a show with her, and she attacked me out of nowhere. And I quite literally didn't speak a word to her. So it's like she has a pattern of being weird and picking an enemy. You put her on the set of Gossip Girl. She has a pattern of picking on people. You put her on the set of Simple Thing, I think it was. She thought she was above Anna Kendrick. Picks on the person she perceives below her. Justin perceived below her, was below her, picked on. Other people above her, she's going to kiss their butt. She's going to be cool girl. She's going to play the part. Ha 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 ha, you're so funny. I love what you're wearing. I love what you're wearing. Ugh. Yeah. Where again, other victims of harassment, it's usually an isolated incident. Like, they're not accusing everyone they've worked with being awful, being terrible, being a harasser, right? It's the one person, and then 95 other people are like, that happened to me, that happened to me, that happened to me. And then when the harasser gets put in jail, then the peons come forward. I was the hairdresser. I was the security guard. I witnessed it, but I didn't feel safe to come forward till the macro person was put away. Which brings me back to the Diddy situation. Now you've got security guards coming forward talking about it, being like, oh yeah, I saw this and that was messed up. I saw this and that was messed up. And it's like, it took till he was in jail for you to do the right thing. Like, that's how Hollywood works. Because it comes down to leverage. You know, yes, I did see that. And then anyone else who commented on the baby bump, there was weird conflict with. Corporate America is like that too, because I did do a stint in corporate. It's the same way. I'm not going to do the right thing. I'm going to keep my job. I'm going to keep my job. I'm going to align with those who pay me. And even though I know that you were harassed, I'm not saying that I saw it. Martha Stewart basically congratulated Blake on a baby bump, and then other people who had interviewed her were like, oh, congratulations, congratulations. And she had like bizarrely confrontational attitudes to it. Yeah. Yeah. Now, again, I think she will work again. I don't think this is an unaliving for her career. I think Ryan will be fine as well. The agency has everything invested in them to make them work again. So they also are going to have the agency needs their money, right? So they're going to favorably promote them. And here we are. The only person who's sticking their neck out here is Baldoni. And it just brings me back to that kid, Drake, who was being molested by that child set guy. And all the cast of Boy Meets World, all the cast of all these child shows were on that guy's side when they were going to trial. And it's like, no, he was actually being violently assaulted, and you were just on the side of the non-sinking ship because it's easier to cut the problem. Wait, do you want me to talk about Ben Savage? Because I have stuff to say there too. A lot of people. I've worked, oh my gosh, first of all, Ed Helms treats people very well. Jeremy Garlick treats people very well. Who else? Most of the women I've worked with treat people very well. That's why this is such an outlier for me that Blake is the problem, because it's mostly the women who treat people well on set. Yeah, well, that's just like Depp versus Heard. The public is weighing in. This is a court of public opinion instead of a factual situation. Danielle Fishel is reportedly very nice. Both the Savage brothers don't have a good reputation. I actually did work for Fred Savage's agent, and this is an interesting thing. So Fred Savage, very nice to me. Got me one of the funniest Christmas cards I ever got. I loved it. He hand wrote it. I cracked up, and I was, oh my God, Fred Savage, you're the best. Find out he's a set screamer, total yeller. And I find this out through a makeup artist who witnessed talent being mistreated. And so then I was like, oh my gosh, that's how all this stuff gets skewed. They're nice to people. So I was working at his talent agency at the time. They're nice to people who matter, right? So I was the person doing the grunt errands who worked for his agent. That he had to be nice to me, not nice to the people below him. Millie Grace, what'd you make for dinner? Amber Heard was powerless. She was the lower peon. I didn't know who she was till this Depp situation. But Depp has a pattern of abuse. Depp has had 2 people go on record of witnessing abuse, only in the European courts. They made sure to not let that come to the American courts. And he ramrodded the PR team. You guys don't understand how much PR these days counts in the court of public opinion. I started in PR, so I've seen how the strike first narrative, the story that you hear first, is the one that everyone believes. Because now you're putting the second person on defense. Now they have to refute it. Now, sometimes it's the victim, sometimes it's the villain. But people believe what they hear first. And then they look for evidence to confirm their belief instead of just objectively looking at stuff to go, is this right? I got accused of being a robot. So the second person has the burden of proof and disproof. So in this case, Blake struck first. Justin has to defend himself. That's kind of what Depp did in America. He struck first after Heard because Heard had a big win in Europe, which has a higher burden of truth, just so you guys know. Hold on, let me catch up. Let me catch up with the questions. You guys have a lot. Flautas? What kind of flautas? 30 years older, had multiple studio films, again, had the leverage of people make a lot of money off him. It was very inconvenient that somebody was going to taint that. I thought there might have been organic conflict at the first point. I was like, whatever, they didn't get along. People don't get along. Like that happens. It wasn't until I read the filing that I had. And to be honest with you, I forgot about what she did to me until I read the filing. And I was like, wait, I had a Blake Lively situation. And it was exactly that. It was completely not that. I honestly had forgotten about it because I had so many other weird things happen to me in Hollywood. Hollywood's the weirdest industry. So like other things were top of mind. And then I was like, oh my God, when I worked at Fuse, she got me yelled at. And that was when I came back and I was like, oh my God, like she has a pattern of making, not going to say she's a fabricator, but she loves to flip a narrative to make herself be more important. Yeah. Kel Spritch, we're talking about the same thing. I have some psychos in my comments on the video I made. What's the weirdest Hollywood story I could tell? Ooh, this one comes to mind. So, I'm working at CAA, and I'm dating a guy at CAA. He comes down to my boss, and he goes, hey, what time are we leaving? And I look up, and I'm like, where the F are you two going? And they're like, the Playboy Mansion. I'm like, well, I want to come. At the time, Girls Next Door was a huge show. Huge show. So I was like, I want to go. Oh my God, I want to go. And my boss looks at me, deadpan, in front of my boyfriend, and goes, I can't keep you safe there. What? You can't, what? You can't keep me safe there? Okay. They go. Whatever. Years later, I see the Secrets of Playboy documentary and how much they would drug people's drinks and yes, and assault them. And I was like, honestly, now that you asked that question, that has to be top 10 weirdest things because he wouldn't explain it to me. My boyfriend who usually defended me would have been like, let her come, right? He was like, and I was like, that is the weird, you can't keep me safe. Like we always go to red carpets. We always go to big events. We always went to big events. You can't keep me safe. And like the when did the Secrets of Playboy come out? Like 2019, 2020, like recently. When I saw it, I was like, that's what he was talking about. Oh my God. Yeah, they still went. Yeah. I just can't believe that was the feedback when he said it. Because I just expected him to be like, oh, they have a +1 and I'm taking your boy. Or something like bro-y. And he literally gave me serious space and was like, I can't keep you safe there. And I did not understand at the time. I was probably 23 or 24. So I really didn't understand. And I just was like, what does that mean? And is this code for you just want to be bros or like whatever? And yeah. Yeah, they both went. And I wasn't even upset at I was like, go. Like I wanted to go to the mansion. because Girls Next Door was the show at the time. I wanted to like go see Kendra and Holly and Margaret. You know what I'm saying? Like I wanted to do that thing. I had no idea what was going on there. So that was one of the weirder ones. What else? I have a lot of weird stories. Yeah, no, he 100% was looking out for my safety. Like, absolutely no doubt in my mind. I didn't understand it at the time. I thought like it was a bro excuse because his wife wasn't going, which I also thought was weird because like he usually took his wife everywhere. And then I thought like, oh, it's like going to a strip club. Like, they just don't want their wives to go to a strip club with them. That's kind of what I chalked it up to because I didn't have any trust issues with my boyfriend or my boss. Like I didn't think he was untrustworthy. He was one of the good agents. But yeah, that was what he said to me. And then I saw the documentary and I was like, like bullet dodged. Because basically what he was saying was he didn't want to have to follow me around the whole night to make sure something nefarious wasn't happening to me. So that was, I'm trying to think if that's my craziest story, but that sticks. I was in an elevator with Harvey Weinstein and that was just weird. Yeah. So same company. I had to go downstairs to get somebody else from reception and Harvey's coming in and he's coming to our floor. Like we had multiple floors, but he's coming to like my floor. He has 4 assistants flanking him and we get in the elevator and it was like in a horror movie when there's a ghost and the whole room gets cold. The elevator was cold. Now, I didn't know anything about Harvey Weinstein at the time. I knew he was important. I knew he was a client. I didn't know any of the bad stuff about him. I just know when we were in this elevator, the temperature dropped. And we get out and okay, so you get out of the elevator and you have to walk this way, and this way to get to my desk. Unfortunately, they're walking in the same direction, so I'm awkwardly following them. And I'm just like, red flagging, like something is just off about this whole dynamic. Again, 20 years later, I like understand, but that was weird. That I'm telling you, the temperature was cold in the elevator. What I remember most was all 4 of his assistants. He had 4 with him. At the time, we had Blackberries. They were all on their Blackberries furiously typing. But, like, we had famous people coming in all the time. Like every big name actor, like Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, like Steven Spielberg. We had every big person coming in all the time. And nobody had this energy. He brought the temperature down. I just don't know how else to describe it. The elevator was cold and I knew nothing about him. This was the same thing. I'm 23, 24. I just knew that was bad energy. That's all I knew. Skipping comments. Whoops. Who's Brandon? I know, us old people had that as a phone. Excuse me if I mispronounce it. So Guadalupe, what's your macro point? Who's my absolute favorite person? Jeremy Garlick sticks out. I really liked him. I liked Fred Savage. I was very disappointed when other people reported bad stuff about him because I actually really liked him. Oh, I didn't see the movie It Ends With Us. I haven't watched it. I was so put off by the whole situation. I did get to work with Dwayne The Rock Johnson when I was 17. I really liked him. He was nice. I don't like to go with Reddit rumors. I like to go with people who like know things. I've heard nice things about Justin Baldoni, where unlike Johnny Depp, I've heard only terrible things about him. Because again, I worked in there, so my friends were their makeup artists. My friends were their stylists. My friends were production. I cannot get over my stuffy nose. It is so annoying. Never met Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, Baldoni has put in work to be better. And Baldoni has been on podcasts talking about therapy, things he does, charities he donates to. I do online sales for different companies now. And I'm also working at a summer camp. So jalapenos, the reason I disagree with that is he puts his money where his mouth is, where most of the time people who are fake like that don't put their money where their mouth is. People who are like, I'm a feminist, yes, are red flags. People who actually donate to domestic violence shelters usually walk the walk. And he understood that domestic violence was the core messaging of the book and the movie, which other people are just like, I want to make a sale, whatever. Oh my gosh. It's 9 o'clock here in Chicago. I gotta get to bed. Well, thank you guys for joining this live. Well, everyone's at the end of the day, everyone's trying to make a buck. That is the macro point of the reason I went live tonight. That I'm sincerely sad that the people who were taking issue with my video before, yeah, Joyce, I'm just sad that they're not hopping on, because I'm like, I will answer your questions on why I said what I said. Yeah, go Cubs. Like, I have receipts. I will answer what I said. People are like, you're a misogynist. No, I'm not. Actually, 99% of the time, I'm on the side of the woman, and I will talk about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp to bring this controversy full circle, I guess, which I don't want to do because I don't want the Depp army. I really don't want the Depp army. Yay. That's so weird. This is so not my content. I just like cooking. All right, well, thank you guys. I'm tired now. I want to go just not talk about this anymore. Oh my gosh, thank you guys. How do we do the new heart? My daughter tried to teach me. Is it this? It looks like an alien. I still like this. I'm a millennial. All right, well, maybe we could talk Hollywood later. You guys have been awesome. Thank you so much. I'm gonna hop off. Curl all of them? Yeah, like this, right? My daughter's like, you gotta do this finger and then lock it on this way. I'm like, I don't understand. I'm an old lady. Thank you guys. All right, maybe we'll do this again like in a few days when I have more clarity. All right, good night. Have a good Friday.